Well, Good Friday. Life and death stand side by side as we enter Good Friday. Jesus reveals the power and love of God even as he is put on trial and sentenced to death. Peter comes face to face with his fears and his hopes, his denial and his coming redemption. Standing with the women at the foot of the cross, we pray for the whole world in the ancient bidding prayer as Christ's death offers life to all. We gather in solemn devotion, but always with the promise that the tree around which we assemble is indeed the tree of life. At the end of our service, you will be invited to come forth and strip the altar, and then we will depart silently. And we anticipate the culmination of the 3 days in Easter Vigil. We'll sing together, What Wondrous Love Is This, number 223.
The gospel readings I will be reading today on this Good Friday are from Luke. Jesus in the garden. Jesus went out as usual to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples followed him. On reaching the place, he said to them, "Pray that you will not fall into temptation." And he withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them and knelt down and prayed. "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." An angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him. And being in anguish, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat was like drops of blood falling to the ground. When he rose from prayer and went back to the disciples, he found them asleep, exhausted from sorrow. "Why are you sleeping?" he asked them. "Get up and pray so that you will not fall into temptation." Betrayal and Arrest. While he was still speaking, a crowd came up, and the man who was called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He approached Jesus to kiss him, but Jesus asked him, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" And when Jesus' followers saw what was going to happen, they said, "Lord, should we strike with our swords?" And one of them struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his right ear. But Jesus answered, "No more of this." And he touched the man's ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, the officers of the temple guard, and the elders who had come for him, "Am I leading a rebellion that you have come with swords and clubs? Every day I was with you in the temple courts, and you did not lay a hand on me. But this is your hour when darkness reigns." Peter's denial. Then seizing him, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest. Peter followed at a distance. And when some there had kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and had sat down together, Peter sat down with them. A servant girl saw him seated there in the firelight, and she looked closely at him and said, "This man was with him." But he denied it. "Woman, I don't know him," he said. And a little later, someone else saw him and said, "You also are one of them." "Man, I am not," Peter replied. And then, about an hour later, another asserted, "Certainly this fellow was with him, for he is Galilean." And Peter replied, "I don't know what you're talking about." And just as he was speaking, the rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked straight at Peter, and then Peter remembered the word of the Lord had spoken to him. He had said, "Before the rooster crows today, you will disown me 3 times." And he went outside and wept bitterly. Jesus before Pilate and Herod. Then the whole assembly rose and led him off to Pilate, and they began to accuse him, saying, "We have found this man subverting our nation. He opposes payment of taxes to Caesar and claims to be Messiah, a king." So Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "You have said so," Jesus replied. Then Pilate announced to the chief priests and the crowd, "I find no basis for a charge against this man." But they insisted, "He stirs up the people all over Judea by his teaching. He started in Galilee and has come all the way here." On hearing this, Pilate asked if the man was a Galilean. And when he learned that Jesus was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at the time. And when Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased, because for a long time he had been waiting to see him. From what he had heard about him, he hoped to see him perform a sign of some sort. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and the teachers of the law were standing there, vehemently accusing him. Then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him, dressing him in an elegant robe, and they sent him back to Pilate. So Pilate decided to grant their demand, and he released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, the one that they asked for, and surrendered Jesus to their will. Golgotha. As the soldiers led him away, they seized Simon from Cyrene, who was on his way in from the country, and put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. A large number of people followed him, including women who mourned and wailed for him. Jesus turned and said to them, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep for yourselves and for your children. For the time will come when you will say, 'Blessed are the childless women, the wombs that never bore, and the breasts that never nursed.' Then they will say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if people do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry?" On the cross. 2 other men, both criminals, were also led out with him to be executed. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on his right, the other on his left. And Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him, and they said, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is God's Messiah, the chosen one." And the soldiers also came up and mocked him, and they offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us." But the other criminal rebuked him. "Don't you fear God?" he said. "Since you are under the same sentence, we are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong." And then he said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus answered him, "Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise." It was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 o'clock. And the sun stopped shining, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. And Jesus called out with a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And when he said this, he breathed his last.
We try, we fail, do too little, too late. We wish we could walk away. We hurt, we're hurt, nothing seems to work. We don't know what to say. Forgive us, forgive us. We don't know what to do. Be with us, be with us. We don't know what to do.
What's wrong? What's right? Hard to see without sight. Blindly we come to you.
Forgive us, forgive us. We know not what to do. Be with us, be with us. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to pray here. Stay here. All we hope is that you're here. Help us seek justice, love, mercy. Walk humbly here. Forgive